Hey everyone, Eric Olson here, and today I'm pruning these 100-year-old Gravenstien apple trees on my homestead, and I just wanted to share a few insights around, one, how to care for a heritage old tree that hasn't been managed for a long time, because there's a specific way to do that, and then also a little bit about pruning apple trees and why you don't want to take out those old gangly trees that might not produce as much fruit, but they actually provide a whole host of other benefits. So let's check out a few of the things happening in this project. First off, you can see my orchard ladder right back here. This is a 14-foot orchard ladder that I'm using to get up into the canopy of the apple tree. But see, one of the challenges when I inherited these trees upon moving onto my homestead was that they hadn't been managed for a while, and the way that they were managed was done in such a way where you can't really reach the fruit to harvest. In fact, I need a 14-foot ladder just to prune the top of this tree. And that's just a little bit much for us on our homestead. I don't want to be managing my intensive food forest in such a way where I need to be hauling around a 14-foot ladder every single year and can't reach the harvest. I'd rather the harvest be down low, and it's easier to manage, it's easier to harvest, and it's easier for the children that are growing up here. So how do we take these trees that have been patterned into growth where, here we'll look at the trunk. So you can see this, this trunk here. This is again a 100-year-old Gravenstien apple. Look at how beautiful these are, how large these are. There's 3 main stems to this tree. And look how there's really no other scaffolding branches until you get pretty high up into the tree. That's about 10 or 12 feet where those next little branches start coming out. So I want to be able to bring the top of this tree down, but if I take off too much of this old wood too fast, if I like cut this thing way down, then possibly it won't recover at all. So over the past few years, really the last 3 years, we've been taking off maybe about a quarter of the tree each year and starting to bring that canopy down to a more manageable height. The other benefit, other than being able to harvest and manage the tree better, is that the tree actually will live longer, because as the weight will be closer to the center of these beautiful trunks, we'll be managing this in such a way that these can't like split off because there's too much top weight. That will just pull these big branches down, and that's really most of the old Gravenstiens around here. That's how they end up falling apart and dying, is because huge trunks are just sloughing off due to all the weight at the top. So we want to bring that growth down. We also want to have the least amount of this old wood as possible, because it's the younger wood that is going to be producing more. And you can see here, I have a nice new trunk. This is maybe 2 years old, growing off of the main one here. And what I want to do is start getting my tree down to this height in terms of cutting off all of this old big wood here. I want to bring it down to here and then let this become the new tree and manage this over the years into the new tree. That way I keep a lot of that fruiting wood really young. In fact, there's an interesting story. In Russia, they discovered 600-year-old apple trees. And the magic of how the indigenous community there managed those apple trees was that they cut them back really low, just how I'm describing, and they kept a lot of the wood as young as possible by every single year lopping off a 4-year-old scaffold trunk and then managing the new growth back to one new scaffold branch. And every 4 years they would take one off, and then the next year they would do another one, and the next year they would do another one, and they would be managing these this young part of the tree. And that's how they got those trees to live to be 600 years old. Okay, so that's just a little bit about what my plans are here with this beautiful 100-year-old Gravenstien apple. But I want to talk about a few other things to keep in mind when you're looking at, so here we get a little bit better view here of the apple. You can see how tall it is. That's a 14-foot ladder there. That's actually the lower branch. Getting up and pruning that off, and we're going to start probably taking this this big tree back so that we can get to some younger growth that's growing lower down. But one of the issues that we've had, especially here in Sonoma County where I live, is that folks have been removing these old apple orchards for vineyards because they're making a lot more money growing vineyards, and so they take out all these old apple trees. But one of the problems with that is that we're actually taking out very important bird habitat, because these old apple trees, they get hollowed out and they become an important refuge for many, many, many different species. And so I want to take you over to another one of our heritage apples here and just show you that, you know, we have a lot of trunks like these with these nice holes in there, and they just create amazing habitat. And looking all over this tree, we see signs of homes and habitat. I'm trying to find a few of those openings here. Well, they're a little hard to see because they're up in here, but there's a bunch of openings, and my son, whose bedroom window looks out on this tree, one evening when I was putting him to bed, he was telling me how he saw these little birds. They were actually oak titmouse birds that were going home to bed inside this apple tree. So we want to manage our management of these beautiful old trees with keeping habitat and keeping as much new growth as possible so that they don't keel over due to too much weight at the end that breaks off on those old trunks and ends up splitting the tree apart. And we want to get our harvesting and management canopy down lower so that every year it's a lot easier to manage, it's easier to harvest, it's easier to prune, and we keep these heritage trees along and around for another 100 years. Well, I'm Eric Olson with the Eco Landscape Mastery School, and I hope you learned something or found some inspiration. Leave us some comments below with any questions that you have, and hope you have a great day. Thanks.